We're here with Caribou. Thanks so much for taking the time. It's an exciting record, I think.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much.
Swim is a follow-up to Andorra, which, as many people who are aware, is a follow-up to the Polaris Music Prize, right? Andorra won the big Polaris Music Prize. And for my ears, though, it seems like there's a lot more percussion on this record and a lot more experimenting with percussion. Were you consciously doing that on the new record?
Yeah, there are a couple things. I mean, it's much more dance music influence, so
Right.
kind of necessarily more punchy and rhythmic, and all those things were exciting. And also, one thing I've done a lot in the past is kind of like a big, ostentatious kind of live drum kit sound.
Yeah.
And I felt like I love that. I mean, I love that sound. As if people come and see our live show, they'll be able to tell that as well. But I felt like I've done that. I've got to do something else, but have rhythm still be as important a part of the music. So a lot of those different kind of percussive sounds aren't kind of drum kit sounds, but other things, drum machines and real percussion, different percussion sounds.
Yeah, it's you know, even though there's percussion, it's not just drums. It's an eclectic sort of percussion, borrowing on all kinds of traditions, right, for the record.
Yeah.
What do you attribute? There seems to, I would say, probably in the last 5 to 10 years, seems to be a real grasp of electronic music in mainstream pop culture. It's not this underground thing anymore, whether it's MGMT or Passion Pit or even Mike Snow or your work. What do you attribute that to?
I think it's just, I mean, the question is almost why wouldn't that happen? The kind of methods of working for a band and an electronic musician have converged. Like almost everybody records at home, almost everybody records onto a computer. If you're starting at a kind of, you're not starting at a kind of chart-topping level, then you're going to be working in that kind of a way. And so it's just, the techniques are right beside one another, whether you use a kind of drum machine on your computer or you use guitar, you know, it's all the same thing now. So for me, it would be surprising if the genres stay distinct, you know. It's kind of like everything will naturally blend together.
Another thing that's probably, and it's a big part of the music that you make, is social media and how it's contributed. You have a contest on your website now where you can download the drum beats or the bass line or whatever and make remixes. You have a remix contest going on. Is that democratization of the musical process part of it, you think, for?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, I guess for me that's been such a big part. That's been such a big part of the last 10 years has been, that's the story of the last 10 years, is the way people have shared music in such an expansive way and communicated with people who are fans of the music and all that stuff. So it's something that I've always thought that the more that you can kind of communicate with people, the more that people kind of have direct access to the music, the better. It just seems like it's a fantastic thing.
The record is split up between songs that have vocals and songs that don't. I would imagine that vocals are just another instrument at your pleasure, right? That you can add into the layering that you do in your music. Is that the idea?
Yeah, I mean that's always been the way that I've approached it. I feel like actually though, this time the songs that do have vocals are kind of the most upfront of anything that I've done. In the past, I've kind of blurred them into the background with reverbs and various things. This album really feels like when my voice is there, that's the sound of my voice, pretty much unaffected, and it's kind of very much in the forefront or whatever. Or yeah, so it feels like, I guess that's the thing that's come with kind of confidence and with time, kind of working with my singing voice.
What's the preference for you? Is it to work on your own material or to jump in and remix other people's material? I guess you're more a part of your own material, but it's the same creative process or similar creative process, remixing other people's material, right?
I guess, yeah. I've always, I mean, I work really slowly on my own stuff, which has always limited the amount of remixing that I can do. But I've just done for remixes for friends of mine, for remix for Fortet, who's a very close friend, and Hot Chip, who are also really close friends. It often tends to be, that's when it's exciting for me, when it's music that I love and it's people that I have a kind of personal connection with, so that feels like, you know, it's not just remix by numbers. That's an unappealing idea, but people who like either getting somebody to remix my music, who I'm excited by theirs, or vice versa or whatever.
What about that? You mentioned Fortet, and one of our listeners wrote in a question about collaborating, not just in the remix process once their album's been completed, but actually collaborating with Fortet or Hot Chip or several other artists, right from the ground up, so that you can build something together. Have you guys contemplated doing that?
I mean, it's funny. Kieran and I are really best friends, such close friends, and we're both a big part of each other's album, just in the sense that he's the first person to hear my music when it's half finished, and vice versa. So we are kind of feedback for each other, even when we're not directly collaborating, even if I'm not recording a part on his record or vice versa. And it would be, it's almost funny that we're so close. It's like, it's funny that we haven't collaborated on a project together, but at the same time, we're just both so busy all the time. It's kind of a question of it all lining up to do. I'm sure someday, but we're already so close to each other's music that it feels like we're a part of each other's music already in a sense.
Have to ask about the pig mask. Is it hard to perform under?
We've stopped doing that because it was too hot. I mean, it's like a piece of rubber, and you're playing the drums constantly, and it gets too hot, unbearable.
You're touring pretty much the rest of 2010, right? Just nonstop. You mentioned that you have a short break in July, but you're on the road pretty much all the time now. Is that important for you to get the music out of your studio that you've probably created in your own studio and get it out there and playing it in a live atmosphere and see how all the things work?
Yeah, I guess it's such a different process for me, because for a lot of bands, they play the songs live, and then the recording is just a document of playing those songs live. And this seems much more of an interesting thing for me. I create these things at home by myself in the studio, and they end up a very particular way, in a very controlled fashion. I have kind of control over every detail.
Right.
But then the kind of side of music that I'd miss from that process, the kind of interaction between musicians and spontaneity and improvising and all those kind of things, and the live venue, the live kind of context is a great way to do all those things, and for the songs to kind of develop from the album's like a starting point in this case, and the songs kind of develop from there. Have
you considered putting out a live record, like based on a performance that you've done? Or
we're actually hoping to. We did two shows, one here in Toronto at the Opera House, and one in a festival in New York State with a 15-piece band.
Wow!
And so we recorded those shows, and we're hoping, if we have time, to kind of mix it all and get it all together. They were really special shows for us. They were kind of all of our friends were part of that. Fortet was part of that band, and Jeremy from Junior Boys, and Luke from Born Ruffians, various people. All our friends were kind of part of that band, and so I really want to make some document of that. So if we get that together, hopefully we'll release that later on.
Another question from the fans was, you lived in Little Portugal here in Toronto for a bit. How much of that experience shaped any of the music on the new record? I guess some of the percussion, maybe. I don't know.
Actually, I didn't. I used to live out on the Danforth.
Oh, really?
My girlfriend at the time lived out in Little Portugal. But
they must have seen you. You have weird stalker friends, apparently.
But I mean, my approach to incorporating. I mean, I guess growing up in a small town and listening to lots of music from different places around the world.
Right.
My approach to music has always been, perhaps, I don't know whether this is a positive or a negative thing, but it's almost been context-free. I've just been very aesthetically interested by music. Right. If it sounds from another place, I'm excited about it without even necessarily knowing too much of it. And then later learning kind of the context around it. But so I've always been a kind of sponge for any music from anywhere in the world that sounds kind of new and exciting, and a lot of those percussive things. For example, there's a track called Bowls on the album, which is the sound of Tibetan bowls being hit, which isn't actually the way you're supposed to play them, but I just liked that sound and kind of incorporated that sound.
What are some of the things that you're turned on to, other music that you're listening to right now that you think's real cool, that you want to? Well, you're wearing a Born Ruffian shirt, and the new record's pretty cool, but is there anything else that you're listening to right now that?
I guess, a lot of the music that I've been listening to over the last year and a bit has been dance music.
Right.
And that's been kind of a big input into this album. The kind of things like the kind of dubsteppy kind of producers in the UK at the moment. There's lots of young, really idiosyncratic takes on that kind of scene. Like young producers, which is really exciting, like feels very fresh at the moment. And also there's Theo Parrish, who's like a legendary Detroit DJ, has been playing in London every month. I've been going to that every month, and that is not necessarily playing new music, but just kind of the sense of being in a club, kind of club culture, and DJing has informed, or specifically his DJing has informed the album in a big way.
Cool. Thanks so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it, and good luck with the new record.
Pleasure. Thank you. Nice meeting you.